которую я говорю, Пуаро, мы двигаемся к финалу этой игры. У нас сейчас нужно допросить обыгрысюгу, кто можете.
Mademoiselle, I shall keep my questions brief.
I don't know what else.
You have been honest with me so far. All I request is that you continue to do so.
Oui, détective.
Я уже знаю причастность мадемуазель к шантажу, но я не уверен, что она связана с убийством Мари. Скажите, что произошло до того, как вы нашли майора в кабинете?
It was frantic in the pantry. We were working hard to make sure everything was up to scratch.
Над тем, чтобы было весело здесь. Присутствие было дальше.
Go on.
Продолжайте, пожалуйста.
Then Liz burst in, asking for Maman's help.
Her help with what?
I don't know. She took Liz to one side, and I was needed in the salon. We spoke just after that in the pantry.
You did not question what she needed help with?
I was too busy. I love Liz, but she sheds a tear at almost everything these days. Although I have never seen her look so pale.
Мадемуазель Лиза все еще была бледна, когда я видела ее ранее. Я понимаю, сколько работы ей приходилось выполнять в столь большом доме, но мадам следует стоять, сколько работает, когда тебе больно. Возможно, мадемуазель Лиана сможет пояснить причину паники Элизабет.
Merci. I shall return if I have any further questions. Monsieur Sterling, is there anything you would like to add to your story?
I'm not sure what you think I have done, detective.
Let us not string out this charade any longer.
From his associate?
От его компаньона?
I already told you, detective. I don't know who it was.
Do not worry yourself on such details now. I suppose they were lucky to have called when they did. Otherwise, they may not have gotten through at all, with the telephone lines being down as of yesterday.
Aye, detective. Lucky, I guess.
Миссис Sterling не глуп. Полагаю, он знает, что я о чем-то подозреваю. Возможно, чтобы он ошибся, нужно задать ему тщательно сформулированный вопрос. Вы последним видели майора живым, когда принесли бутылку виски в кабинет, верно?
Whiskey?
You took a bottle of whiskey to the Major. You spoke with Monsieur Demire, or what?
Aye, of course. It was a bottle he picked up from his last visit to Scotland. Rather smoky number from the Highlands. He was saving it for a worthy occasion. Drowning his sorrows must have been fitting enough.
Вначале он вообще не помнит о бутылке, а потом, как по шоссе, вспоминает мне дичайшие подробности.
Or was it the one from the West Coast? You have to excuse my memory, detective.
Можете объяснить, почему принадлежащему майору медаль оказалась в вашей...
Oh, you found it.
О, вы ее нашли?
Thank you, detective.
Я повсюду ее искал.
I've been looking everywhere for it.
If I had lost a war medal, I would not stop until I found it.
It's not what you think. I was...
Exploiting a dead man's military achievements for your own personal gain?
Nothing of the sort. He asked me to clean them up. I must have dropped it into my pocket when I was putting them back. An honest mistake.
Никогда прежде я не слыхал столь жалкого оправдания для кражи. Ребенок придумал бы что-нибудь получше. Я не считаю себя экспертом, но могу предположить, что такая медаль стоит немало.
I wouldn't know.
Могу знать, возможно.
Your father was in the military for many years. That is what you told me.
Вы сказали...
He was.
And your family still keep his medals.
They were sold.
Или продали.
And why was that, monsieur?
Is my family on trial now, detective?
Only you,
Только вас,
monsieur.
месье, и повторяю.
And I repeat my question.
Because
Потому что нужны
we
были
needed
деньги.
money.
Voila.
Оля. Когда миссис Стэнли протоптал дорожку к имуществу майора, он знал стоимость медали. Вы утверждаете, что я просил вас почистить медаль, чтобы выставить их на обозрение?
No,
Нет, он хранил их
he
в
keeps
сейфе
them
вместе со
safe with some of his
старыми
old military documentation.
Is that a typical job for the head butler?
He trusts me to do a good job. I told him I used to clean my father, so he asked me to do the same.
And where does he keep these items?
In the storage room. I know where everything is, so it's just easier if I fetch them for him as and when he needs them.
Не помню какой-либо армейской атрибутики или памятных вещей в кладовке. Он может говорить о какой-то другой кладовке? Вы счастливы в доме семейства Мандалуш?
It's certainly better than my last.
You are paid a fitting wage for the work that is asked of you?
I'm sure the lady of the house would not want me discussing it, but I should not complain.
That is not the most convincing answer, monsieur.
Between you and I, we all work very hard here, and it would be nice if we were rewarded for it.
Кажется, миссис Стейлин пытается убедить меня, как и себя самого, что он есть что его нечистота на руке оправдывает маленькую зарплату за усердную работу.
Please don't go anywhere. If I require more information, I shall call on you again.
Кстати, нашему можно что-то уже соединить и посмотреть, что именно.
Order and method. That...
Шеф-паль забыл, что одно из отсутствия звонка.
I cannot see the logic in this. Is there something I am not seeing? Some would say a lucky guess.
Мне с первого взгляда следовало понять, что они принадлежат кому-то из слуг, но кому? Ботинки кого-то из слуг.
This will not get... I must act on thought and fact, not on impulse. Come, my little grey cells. What a revelation!
Кто-то из слуг надел одежду майора и встал на то место, где он обычно кует во время снегопада, чтобы его увидели гости. Зачем это они сделали? Интересно.
Mademoiselle, I shall be as quick and precise with my questioning as possible.
Okay,
Ладно. Что
what do you
вам
need?
угодно? Мы собрали такого до конца нашего.
Merci.
Алиса, он был хорошим человеком.
He was a good man. Taken too early.
Forgive me, mademoiselle, for not extending them earlier, but I was not aware of your relationship.
He was my only brother, and he died doing what he believed was right. If I ever get my hands on who took him from me.
Понимаю, почему она так разгневана. Я брат поднял меру в столь юном возрасте и столь жестоким способом. На насилие нельзя отвечать насилием, но уверен, что моя задача стоит так же. Скажите, отвечать на вашего брата беспорядком на фабрике.
You say the riots, but it was the strike he was part of. They started the riots, not the workers.
By they, you are referring to the security forces. They were brought in to keep the peace.
Security! Huh. They were brought in to make an example of them. It was all peaceful until they arrived.
Why would they need to make an example?
So that the workers would stop rallying. No one is going to go on strike if they think they'll get killed. The security you talk of were armed and ready. The workers were pigs to the slaughter. What chance did they have?
Очевидно, мадам все еще опечалена Гильберт и имеет полное на то право. Если все было так, как описано мадам, я не могу представить, как охранники могли совершить такой отвратительный акт. Одно мы не знаем, мы об этом уже говорили, но вы принесли мою роль.
Yes.
Да.
This was before or after Archibald took him a bottle of whiskey.
Before.
You are sure?
It may have been after.
The whiskey is kept in the cellar with all the alcohol.
It is.
Then you must have noticed him going into the cellar and returning with a bottle through the pantry, no?
Yes, I suppose I did. It must have been before then.
Лишь один вопрос, Мазарь уже сомневается в своем рассказе. И все равно я не вижу причин для лжи. Скажите, что делали люди.
What is there to say?
Сказать.
Being locked away in the pantry, I don't see her for most of the day.
That may be. But she came looking for your help before dinner was served, did she not?
She wasn't feeling well.
And she came to you.
I told you, we are a family here. The girls come to Mama Reh if they have a problem, and I fix it.
When I saw her earlier, I must admit she was not looking herself. Perhaps I should check on her.
No! Just leave the poor girl. She'll be fine after another bowl of my homemade soup. She just needs her rest.
Отворенных от своей семьи, но если я не допустить меня к моему реализму, не указывать на вот в этот ужас.
Merci, mademoiselle. I must take a different approach if I... Come, my little grey cells. I must take a different approach if I am to uncover the... I should not be surprised by my own skin.
Как они оба могли забыть нечто важное, что произошло лишь день назад?
Magnifique.
И Арчибальд и Риана хорошо сыграли свои роли, но только пока не расслабились. Почему же слуги понадобилось придумать показания?
The pieces of the puzzle are finally...
Мне почти пришлось пересказывать обоим их рассказы. Очевидно, я не могу верить ни одному их слову. Почему слуги скрывают правду от меня? Возможно, что-то есть.
Order and method. That is the way to... Another success. I never...
Да, такого открытия я не ожидал. Слуги причастны к убийству. Такая как юная Ингель, виновна в преступлениях, связанных с шантажом миссис Пеннингель, Мазаряна, скрывала улики и правда о том, как был Витвоер. Для начала слуги уже выразили подозрения, но это подтверждает их причастность. Все ли слуги причастны? Делать вывод причастности к убийству каждого из слуг. Я близко к тому, чтобы раскрыть правду об убийстве майора, но прежде чем решить голову тщательно, я должен выяснить, какую роль играл.
Is there something... Things are beginning to be...
Не могу представить себе боль, которая не испытать языка, памяти, они всегда будет жить их сердцем.
I cannot see the logic in this. I must act on thought. This will not get me. Some would say a lucky guess.
А я бы сказала, бедная, а прочие слуги были заняты выполнением своих обязанностей. Должно быть, она нашла тело, но играла ли она какую-то роль в убийстве?
Another success.
Хотя ее обязанности не ходили за пределы кухни буфетной, я не помню, чтобы видела ее.
Things are beginning.
Переодевание Рианы майора было в частности замысел. Зачем я еще не уверен, зачем ей понадобится выгораживать Элизабет?
I cannot see the logic in this.
Не знаю.
Perhaps a second look at the evidence in front of me.
Не вижу в этом... Так.
Magnifique.
Я уверен, что... Я уверен, что Инга не помогала скрывать то, что таким усердием скрывали другие слуги.
This will not get me. Order and method.
Тогда сделаем...
I must act on thought. What a revelation!
Блак применил свои актерские способности, чтобы ударить кого-то из слуг. Но кого?
Is there some...
Наверное,
Come, my little grey cells.
помогла ли...
I must take a different approach. I should not be surprised by my own...
Притворный телефонный звонок был задачей Арчибальда. Он переложил много усилий, чтобы защитить Элизабет. Но зачем это нам приготовить? Опять-таки юная Инга виновата в преступлениях, связанных с шантажом системой. Бразильян. Провали улики о правде и том, как был Нью-Йорк. Хорошо. Теперь у меня есть все части головы, он должен помыть свою комнату, складывать их до тех пор, пока не... Пора мне маленьким своим пяточкам снять. Я не заработаю близко к тому, чтобы раскрыть правду.
The pieces of the puzzle of...
Как же это могло ускользнуть от меня, Элизабет убить? Поверить не могу, что не видел этого, ослеплённый собственным доверием. Когда я глянул назад, то вижу, что улики были у меня перед глазами. Опираться время на установленную связь между гостями и мотивами действия было вполне достаточно, чтобы возбудить подозрения, но пока я отвлекся на них, я не заметил отсутствие дома час. Я все еще не могу сообразить, почему. После такого судебного дня я в столице, я пообещал себе, что не позволю своим суждениям вести меня по течению. Но я снова выгляжу дураком. Сегодня больше уже ничего не сделаю. Мне надо хотя бы попробовать дать отдых мозгу, чтобы подготовиться к допросам в зале или в Твиттере. Глава 8. Правда. Что это еще такое? Это что, слон сбежал и пробрался на 3-й этаж? Звук доносится из комнаты прямо надо мной. Но там же кладовка. А если там кто-то есть? Интересно. Интересно. Опа. Дверь открыта. Интересно. Давайте посмотрим. Кладовка. Там щелк прям. Опа. И зачем мне сестренка шуметь там глубокой ночью? Посреди ночи Арчибальд не спит и чем-то шумит. Я должен увидеть, что он намеренно сделает. Ясно.
Monsieur Sterling.
Oh, detective. I was just...
Please, I eagerly await to hear what reason you give for being in the story.
A butler's job is never...
I am no fool, monsieur. You have spun enough stories this weekend.
Honestly, detective, you don't trust anyone.
And with good reason.
I've been thinking about my time with the family.
I often think on fond memories, but it does not take me to a storage room in the middle of the night.
There are many memories held within these walls. I just...
Судя по словам сестрик, он собирается покинуть дом. Звук был такой, как будто выдвигали мебель.
I didn't realize the noise I was making.
Obviously. Were you preoccupied looking for another of the Major's medals?
Of course not. I already explained.
No, monsieur. You attempted to dupe me again into believing one of your stories.
Please, detective. I know you know how it ended up in my possession. I was just trying to get some extra money together to send home. I can't lose this job. If Lady Van den Bosch found out...
Theft of a medal would be the very least of your problems.
Deceive? I'm sorry that I lied to you about the medal.
очные ставки на цистернах остается непреклонной, отказывается принять содеянное.
Would you care to explain the fake telephone call? It was purely for my benefit, no?
Он был исключительно для меня.
Why would I fake a telephone call?
Имитировать телефонный звонок.
The same reason that Mademoiselle Rihanna dressed in the Major's jacket in the snow, to allow not only the guests but me to believe the Major was still alive.
I didn't kill him, detective.
I know, monsieur, but I also know that you helped the one that did to cover their tracks.
It wasn't like that. We were just trying to help. She had no part in it. You never let on. How long have you known it was her?
Monsieur, I am Detective Hercule Pουaρο. I only show my hand when I deem it necessary.
You will be taking her away then.
She will stand trial for what she has done.
But you don't know the full story. She is just a servant in this house. If she is arrested, that will be the end for her.
If Mademoiselle was only protecting herself, as you both have claimed, she will surely be found innocent.
The Major's military storage.
The one that stored his medals.
Amongst other things, yes.
And those other things are...
I had to protect her. If you found it when searching the study, you would have carted her off then and there.
Whatever it is you have hidden, it will not remain that way for much longer. I need a moment.
Несколько разных разбросанных цветы, висящих по всему дому, лежит в коробке. Почему она здесь?
Order and method. That is the way to solve the problem. Is there something?
Секреты семейства главномужнего хранятся в открытой комнате.
I must act on thought. Things are beginning to be...
Снятое изображение может относиться к двери в эту комнату. Это объясняет присутствие Арчибальда.
I should not be surprised.
Должно быть, Арчибальд спрятал предмет, оставленный в комнате. Полагаю, до ее можно добраться через кладовку. Смотрите кладовку. Еще раз. Здесь нет ничего. Там молоток. Интересно. Скрытая комната? Кажется, этот дом тайн еще немало секретов. Так. Смотри тайную комнату. Хорошо, допустим. Мне интересно становится. У меня есть нож. Добрый нож, кажется, принадлежит майору. Письмо. Интересно. Последняя воля и завещание подчишего Виконта. Кажется, он искренне любил Анжелину. Последняя воля и завещание волеизъявление. Волеизъявление, да. Я Виконт Эндот Ванденбош, нахожусь в здравом уме, настоящее, завещаю, выражаю мою последнюю волю без принуждения или угроз. Статья 1. В случае моей смерти я назначаю жену Кассандру Ванденбош исполнительницей завещания, управляющим имуществом семьи Ванденбош, а вся имущество я завещаю единственной дочери Анжелины Ванденбош. Какие-либо непокаженные должности, расходы на мое лечение, похороны и административные издержки должны быть оплачены со счета Ванденбош, банки Бельгии. Дочери моей Анжелине, ты устала очень... Ты сладочимый. Я звездочка на небе. Не дай этому свету угаснуть на минуту. Моя жена Кассандра, благодарю за радостные годы, проведенные вместе. Мы вместе смеялись, вместе любили и принесли этот мир самый драгоценный дар. Я верю, что ты защитишь ее, подготовишь ее будущее. Поэтому надежда и возможность. Хорошо. Ожидал бы очень дорогой, к сожалению, видно, что она пошла в войну. Даже такая маленькая серая клеточка, полагаю, мы кое-что знаем об этом. Армейский сундук. Армейский сундук майора, в нем хранится несколько писем, памятных вещей.
Come, my little grey cells. This will not get me. I cannot see the logic in this. I must take a different approach if I am to uncover the truth. The pieces of the puzzle are fine.
Это убийство найдено, должно быть перерезать файлы в кабинете. Так, подается Чебайка.
Magnifique.
Когда главный же Poirot, армейский символ это подтверждает. Но он сидел уже находился.
I cannot see the logic in this. Order and method. I must act on thought. What a revelation!
Который я нашел в армейском сундучке, несомненно, призыв майора. Значит, да, нет.
There is no use lying anymore.
Когда я вчера смотрел сад, я обнаружил журнал, по-моему, принадлежащий майору.
He always had his regiment lighter that he received in the war on his person.
And yet, It was not his regiment emblem that was engraved on it.
My father's. It must have fallen out of my pocket. You still have it, detective.
Monsieur, you have stashed evidence, manipulated a crime scene, obscured my investigation, and yet it is a lighter that you worry about most?
If it is my path to end up behind bars for what I have done, so be it. It is Elizabeth that you... I have heard how you fought for that young maid before. Florette, is it? I only ask that you do the same for Elizabeth.
Хотя это сильно различается по степени тяжести, я вижу, что власть имущества и верхи общества будут относиться к мадемуазель Лизе также даже до суда. Как же офицер полиции дал клятву защищать справедливость и нести правосудие. У мадемуазель было возможно доказать перед судом свою невиновность, как и прочих подозреваемых. Отсутствие орудия убийства.
You found it.
Even the secret area that has been created here is not concealed enough to stop Detective Hercule Pουaρο.
I couldn't just leave it at the scene for you to find.
The Major was killed by his own knife. The knife that protected his life during the war would eventually be the one that ended it.
It was in his holster when he attacked her. He had hold of her arm. What else was she meant to use to get him off of her?
Он держал ее за руки, что еще она должна была сделать, чтобы вы ее отпустили. Представить не могу, что майор так просто отдал свой нож, но должна была быть настолько приблизительной к ней, чтобы она смогла взять силу. Возможно, он и вправду напал на нее, как она утверждает.
She didn't plan any of it, detective. She was only defending herself.
That is what Mademoiselle told you?
She did, and I believe her. You think you knew the Major, but you had no idea. He was a monster and had more secrets than all of us combined.
That may be true, but that does not excuse what she has done.
Put yourself in her shoes for a minute. If a man like that had attacked me the way he did Lizzie, I would have done a lot worse to him.
Маргарита сказала миссис Стерлингу, версия событий, которая предполагала, что майор напал на нее. С трудом не могу поверить, что она придумала такую историю, но ведь я и не верил в то, что она могла совершить преступление.
I need a moment. This will not get me. Come, my little grey cells. Another success.
Если я нашел зажигалку от Шибали, значит, она подобрала что-то еще. Что Шибали взял с собой.
Some would say a lucky guess.
Арчибальд выпустил орудие в ступень из окна, подобрал его и спрятал в тайном комнате.
There is no use lying anymore. When you asked me yesterday about seeing someone out there, I thought the game was up.
That does not explain what you will do.
When Lizzie took me to the study, the knife was still in the Major's chest, and I knew I had to get rid of it. I dropped it out of the window, knowing no one would be going outside. It was fine for the time being, but I couldn't risk it being found when the snow melted.
So you collected it under the cover of darkness and stowed it away in here, where you thought no one would find it.
After your questioning in the pantry, I knew you were onto something, and I couldn't leave it here.
And where did you plan on moving it to?
Honestly, I don't know.
Забрать билет и спрятать его, чтобы спасти ее, должно быть. Он очень хочет защитить ее от закона. Мне надо с ним что-то побить.
There is no use lying anymore.
У меня последний вопрос. Почему?
Why what?
Что почему?
Why I
Почему я
would
искал
risk
всем,
everything to
чтобы
help
помочь
Lizzie?
Лизе?
Exactement.
Совершенно верно.
Because she
Потому
is
что она моя
family.
семья. Вы на моем
If
месте
you were in
делали
that
бы то же
position,
самое.
I can assure you,
Могу
monsieur,
заверить вас, месье,
that
не
I would
сделаю.
not.
Then perhaps
Тогда,
that
возможно,
says
я
something about
критикую
you,
вас.
detective.
Я
I would
всё
do
сделаю
anything for her,
для
for
любого
any
человека.
of my staff,
Even if it means crossing the boundaries of the law.
without
Без
question.
сомнения. Антистерин готов пойти на многое, чтобы защитить тех, кого считает семьей. Это достаточно исключение, но если это многое подразумевается приступить закон, защищающий невиновных, этого нельзя отпускать в ссылку. Я прошу вас нотариата по завершению ваших утренних обязанностей остаться в крыле для слуг.
Aye, detective.
Собственно, прошу,
But
вы
please,
должны помочь
you
Лизе.
have to help
Всё
Lizzie.
это случилось
It was all an
случайно, она
accident.
не заслуживает
She doesn't
мести,
deserve to spend the rest of her
освобождения
days
за решёткой
behind
этого
bars
человека.
because of that man.
If she is put behind
Если
bars,
её поместить за
it is
решётку,
because that is
потому
what
что
the
так
courts have decided upon.
Detective, you
Всё
can't be
будет
so
так
cruel.
жестоким.
It is not
Это не
cruelty, monsieur.
жестокость, месье,
It
это
is the
закон.
law.
После этих открытий мой разум бурлит, словно шоколадная лавка месье Гуя. У меня есть сейчас мозаики, которые позволят понять, почему я люблю белом мире. Теперь пусть мои сердечки соберут их в одну цель. После такого, как я в тайной комнате нашел эти документы и части мозаики, почему Лиза белого мира начала становиться на свои места?
I must take a different Is there something I have...
М,
I cannot see the logic in this.
может.
Magnifique.
Нация затруднения майора привела его к поиску источника дохода. К тому же он опустился в трудное время.
This will not get me any closer to my... I must act on thought and... Things are beginning to...
Раскрытие этой информации погубило бы его репутацию. Прекрасно быть для шантажа.
Is there something I am... Order and method. I must take a different approach if I... I should not be surprised by my own skills of...
Майору было нужно сохранить работу, только это гарантировало, что он получит оплату. Что же он сделал, чтобы работа была выполнена?
Come, my little grey cells. What a revelation!
Чтобы гарантировать оплату, майор должен был должно быть приказал атаковать бастующих. Каковы же были жестокие последствия приказа майора?
The pieces of the puzzle are fun.
К сожалению, приказы майора привели Люка, и все же из-за жадности. Кто же больше всего пострадал из-за этого?
Order and method. That... Another success.
Элизабет потеряла больше всех причастностей. Она могла хотеть отмстить. Элизабет не кажется мстительной, но все указано на то, что она мстила за волшебную луку. Если не придется обвинить Мазари Лиз, ты должен положить все усилия, а мы если Сероклеточная должна быть полная готовность. Пора, по крайней мере, пытаться отдохнуть. У меня нет времени бороться со сном. Мне нужно устроить очную ставку с мадемуазель Элизабет и наконец узнать правду о происшедшем.
Detective Poirot, I'm glad you're awake.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. It has certainly not been a night of peaceful sleep.
Please, Detective, I'm not sure I can take any more surprises like last night.
I'm afraid this may be the most upsetting of them all.
You have found Felix's killer, haven't you?
I have. And the guilty party will certainly come as a shock.
Detective, please.
It was Mademoiselle Elizabeth that was behind the Major's death.
You must be mistaken. Elizabeth could not do such a thing.
I assure you I am not. It is something I spent much of last night deliberating. When you spoke of the telephone lines being out of order, it made me question the conversation I thought I had heard Monsieur Sterling make with the Major before connecting the call to him.
But it hasn't been working all weekend.
Exactement, mademoiselle. That is when I knew I had once again been lied to.
I wasn't. What were you doing in there, Detective?
It was Monsieur Sterling that I found in there. I was taken by some surprise to hear anyone awake at that hour.
What on earth was he doing?
He claimed he was merely reminiscing of his time with the family.
You don't believe him?
It did not take long for me to uncover the truth of why he was there and the location of the Major's murder weapon.
She was meant to be resting in the staff quarters. She has not been well.
I am afraid that was yet another lie, orchestrated to keep her from incriminating herself.
Why would you think that, Detective?
I only managed a few words with her before we were quite abruptly interrupted.
I must admit, he has a habit of speaking over the other staff.
It was much more than merely disturbing our conversation. It was done with the intention to prevent Mademoiselle saying something that she should not.
So, Elizabeth killed Felix, and then Archibald helped her cover it up?
In its simplest form, oui. I have heard it directly from...
You have spoken with Elizabeth already?
Not Elizabeth, but Monsieur Sterling.
Hidden area?
A room that held all of the Major's secrets.
I had no idea. Did you discover the reason for his black...
I did. Were you aware he was dishonorably discharged from the army?
Dishonorably? What does that mean?
Я не стану скрывать правду от музея, но постараюсь как можно деликатно сообщить ей, но все прежние поступки.
Yes, Gideon told me about the conversation you had. It is really quite upsetting.
Zachariah was adamant of the Major's cruelty during the war, but the extent was not known until now. He killed a number of prisoners, men that were friends of Zachariah.
Surely not. He would not do such a thing. They must have been trying to escape.
I am afraid not. They were in...
Oh, Detective.
It is the reason he was discharged, denied his military pension, and I believe the reason he fled England.
He had been such an important part of my life for so long, but I feel like I hardly knew him. Innocence? You said it was she that killed him.
It was her hand that held the knife, but he was quite insistent it happened in self-defense.
In all of the years I have known her, she has barely even raised her voice. I cannot believe she would do something like that out of malice.
The whole truth cannot be known until Mademoiselle Elizabeth has told her story.
Я позволю своей впечатленности не нраве выслать любую мысль о ее печатности, но кажется ли только я настало время до тети Лизы.
Will you allow me to be present?
I think that is an excellent idea. I hope your presence will calm her and will perhaps allow her to speak more.
Please, detective. I know she has done a terrible thing, but I beg of you to give her the time to explain herself.
I will offer Mademoiselle Elizabeth the fair trial that she deserves, as I would with any suspect.
Thank you, Detective Poirot.
Would you bring Mademoiselle Elizabeth to the study, where we will not be disturbed?
Of course, I'll find her immediately.
Полагаемся, уже рассказал мне о том, между майором Музелем и майором. Я не верю, что она совершила бы такое, что совершила, если бы одна не напала на нее. И не вынудила ее бояться за свою жизнь. Он должен выслушать ее рассказ, правду и лишь затем, может быть, и подвергнуть ее наказанию.
Mademoiselle Elizabeth, merci for joining us.
Miss Angeline said you requested to see me urgently.
We have some serious matters to discuss, and I would like to waste no...
Oh, yes, Detective. Still not quite myself.
I was surprised when Monsieur Sterling hurried you to assist Madame Vandenbosch last night.
I should not have avoided my duties for so long. The house does not stop because I'm feeling a little under the weather.
That is true, but you cannot be expected to complete all your tasks if you are not in the right frame of mind.
Honestly, Detective, it was best for me to not sit and wallow anymore. Have you been able to uncover who the blackmailer?
The blackmailer's identity has been established.
Wonderful news, Detective. You can put it all behind you now. You must be thrilled.
I would not say thrilled, knowing that such a close friend has betrayed us.
Mademoiselle is correct. What I have learned over this weekend is that people are not always as they appear. While they may give an impression of being a friend or ally, they can in fact be something completely different.
And, what of the...
Well, mademoiselle, that is why I have asked you here now.
Yes, that is where he spent his last moments. Standing shoulder to shoulder with his fellow workers.
The resulting riots were a terrible tragedy, one that I hope we will not have to see or experience again. Something that could have been avoided had the Major and his team done what was required of them.
Nobody deserved to die that day. Not my Luke. I'm not quite sure what you want me to say, Detective.
Your honest opinion is all I ask, and, s'il te plaît, do not hold back. No one else felt it necessary.
We only spoke when there was something in the house to be done. We did not speak of interests or pastimes.
You knew of his work with Monsieur de Silva?
I only know what is required of me to know, and that is very little.
But you were aware of his work as security at Monsieur de Silva's factory.
I was.
The factory your beloved Luke worked at, before he was cruelly taken from...
Yes, Detective. Detective? What kind of question is that?
It is a straightforward one. Mademoiselle, if there is something you wish to tell me, now is that time.
I'm sorry, Detective, I just don't know how to answer it.
Let us consider what we know of the Major. He fronted the militia that attacked the workers at the strike. You were aware of this? You finally had someone to blame for Luke's death. Someone conveniently located in the same house, alone in his study.
No, Detective. It wasn't like that.
Tell me what happened with the Major on the evening of his death.
I was only in here trying to prove what I heard Mr. Becker say. I was going to report him, I swear. Miss Angeline, you believe me, don't you?
I want to. I am still trying to understand it all myself. Why don't you start from the beginning?
I was delivering Miss Angeline's dress to her room when I heard Mr. Becker's arguing with the Major in his study. They were ever so loud. I thought the whole house would have been listening to what Mr. Beckers was talking about the factory strikes and how it was the Major's fault. He told him that if he didn't own up to his crimes, he would go to the newspapers.
I cannot imagine the Major would have taken kindly to Monsieur Becker's threat.
He didn't. He called him some rather uncouth names before Mr. Beckers left and went downstairs. I made sure to keep out of sight. After the altercation between the Major and Master Gideon, you went to speak with him outside, and I thought I could look around his study without anyone knowing. I had to know for sure. If it was true, he deserved to be held accountable.
And did you find the proof you were looking for?
I found a payment from Mr. De Silva, but there was nothing incriminating about that. I was so nervous. I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest.
And then you saw the blackmail note.
I recognized the writing on the envelope. I couldn't believe it. How could he do such a thing to Angeline? To the family that had taken him in?
Common sense would determine the Major was another victim of the blackmailer.
If I'd have used common sense, I wouldn't have been snooping around alone in his study in the first place. I heard the footsteps in the hall, and before I could move, the Major was standing in front of me, demanding to know why I was going through his belongings without permission. I tried to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out, and when he saw the letter in my hand, it was like Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde. I tried to move around him towards the door, but he hurled something towards me, and it crashed against the wall.
That would explain the damage to the wall.
I froze. I have never been so scared in all my life. I thought he was going to kill me there and then.
And you thought you would beat him to it?
Oh, Detective, you make it sound as though I had it all planned. He lunged forward and grabbed me by the arm. I tried to push him away, but he was too strong. His grip just got tighter and tighter. If only you had seen the look in his eyes, I dared not even scream. I saw the sheath on his belt. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to hurt him, but he wouldn't let go of me.
So you took your opportunity to put an end to it all.
I just wanted to get him off me. I didn't want to hurt him. I reached for it and I jabbed it at him. His grip instantly loosened and I ran straight out the door and didn't look back.
You did not even look to see what state you had left him in?
She had just been attacked, Detective.
Oui, please. Continue.
I ran down to the pantry looking for Rahana. She took one look at me and knew. I explained to her what had happened and she went to find Archie. She said he would know what to do. We went back to the study and he was still lying there. Archie said that no one would believe me. That if someone like me killed someone like him, I would be sent straight to the gallows. He left the letter so you would find it. He said that if people knew what the Major was really like, then they wouldn't care what happened to him.
So I am to believe that it was Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna that cleaned the scene and orchestrated a plan that included a fake telephone call and dressing as the Major so that he may be seen. You had nothing to do with that.
I swear I had no idea that is what they had done. Archie just told me to stay out of sight. I am no master criminal.
Then Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna will be charged for obstruction of justice and impeding my investigation.
Please, Detective, they were only trying to help me.
If they wished to help you, they should have brought all of this to my attention immediately instead of committing more illegal acts.
Surely you haven't forgotten what happened with Florette. She was only accused of stealing a bracelet. I killed a man.
It is a day I have not forgotten, mademoiselle, even for a moment.
Without your help, I don't stand a chance. Please, Detective Poirot, you are the only one that can help me.
Oh, Elizabeth, why didn't you come to me?
I didn't think you would believe me. I felt so guilty. And when it was announced yesterday that he was a victim of the blackmailer, I wanted to tell you everything. I came to find you last night, detective, but Archie stopped me. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, detective. I don't know where it is.
If you have been honest with me until now, I ask that you continue.
I'm sorry, I really don't know. Archie dropped it out of the study window and he said he would deal with it. I couldn't bear to touch the thing.
У меня и судей по реакции музея, она не знает, что с ним стало. Она не знает о том, что все студенты музея реально пришли, чтобы скрыть то, что идет все студенты управляют. Говорят, что пойдет на все ради нее.
I need a moment. Come, my little Grace. I must take a different approach if I am... I cannot see the logic in this. Some would say a lucky guess.
Лиза подтверждает слова Марго. Смерть майора стала результатом самозащиты. Я сразу вместо убийцы, должен признать, я не испытывала радости, но завис убийцы. Хотелось бы мне, чтобы она никогда не стала ею.
Oh, yeah. Please, I was only protecting myself. I didn't want to hurt him. He just wouldn't let me go.
Oui, mademoiselle. I know. Mademoiselle tells quite the harrowing story.
I cannot imagine the Major acting in such a way. But Elizabeth could not make up such a story.
After learning what I have about the Major's character this weekend, I would not question the lengths he would go to in order to keep his secret hidden. I know that you share a close bond with Mademoiselle Elizabeth, but you cannot allow your personal feelings to taint your belief of what took place.
She has committed a terrible crime, but she will live with that for the rest of her life. She is not a cold-blooded killer.
If what she says of the Major's attack is true, she acted in self-defense, and in the law's eyes, a crime has not been committed. I will do everything I can to make sure her story is heard and a fair trial is conducted.
Полагаю, версия событий, сказанная музея Лизы, правдива. Меня пришел ярость от того, что омерзительные тайны ведут на свет. Он напал на юную музель и довел ее до того, чтобы пришлось сделать все, что защитить. Она поставила себя в опасное положение, но малая часть меня одобряет то, что сделать ради справедливости возлюбленной и других рабочих всякой жизни по приказу майора. Если телефонная линия сейчас работает, я должен позвонить и сообщить о своих открытиях. Мне еще много, поэтому приехать.
Mademoiselle, it is time I address the house.
Are you sure? What will you say? What if they do not listen?
I can assure you that...
Elizabeth was right, though. She's just a servant. What if they...
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot speaks, they will listen. Would you ask the guests to convene in the
Of course. And what of the staff?
I have told Monsieur Starling to remain in the staff quarters with the others. When the authorities arrive, they shall be dealt with. You have been of great help to me throughout my investigation, and now that it is over, I have one final request.
You only need to ask.
While I am speaking with the guests in the library, would you watch over Mademoiselle Elizabeth in my room?
You don't think she will try and escape, do you?
In her position, I do not know what she might try. But I trust with you there. Any potential ideas of such a thing?
9. Развязка.
Detective, you have spent more time making us sit and wait for you than anything else.
Madame Van den Bosch, if you think I have spent my time focused on anything besides uncovering the Major's killer, you are sorely mistaken.
I'm sure you will be eager to share your findings with us then.
All in good time, Madame. Firstly, to understand the truth of what has occurred this weekend, one must know the timeline of events that not only preceded the Major's death, but succeeded.
We are all well aware of what happened before, Detective. You can save your breath.
You are only aware of what the guilty parties wanted you to believe. But now I shall apprise you to the true events. The reason for us all being here, you know. The altercation between Monsieur Demire and the Major, you know. The body of Monsieur Hagen was found while we were all sat enjoying a most delicious meal. That you also know. But what was kept from us all was that his body lay on the study floor for far longer than was thought.
It was that servant. She found him.
S'il te plaît, monsieur. It was indeed young Inga that found the Major's body lying lifeless in the study.
So it was her.
Monsieur, I will not allow for any further interruptions. I return to the Major's body. If we are to believe the scene that we were presented with, the Major must have been killed during the first course of our meal, a meal that none of you left, even for a moment. Speaking in the evening, you all confirmed one another's alibis, and although there was doubt in the validity of some, I confirmed that they were indeed all true. What I could not understand was how a man came to be found dead, and every guest accounted for at the time of death. That is until I questioned the latter. Monsieur Beckers, I shall now allow you to speak. You saw the Major smoking a cigar in the snow. Is that true?
It is.
False. You saw what you were meant to see. Someone in the Major's coat, standing outside, giving the illusion that the Major was still very much alive. Monsieur da Silva, on the afternoon of the Major's death, do you recall hearing a telephone ring?
Now that you mention it, I have not heard a single ring all weekend.
Correct. The telephone lines have been down for the duration of our stay, meaning the telephone call that was received and promptly directed to the Major's study was yet another act of trickery and deceit. But it did not end there. When I entered the study for the first time, it was obvious someone had already been there and falsified the scene to stage a burglary and clear away important evidence, including the murder weapon. What followed was an investigation that had already been hindered. But even those lengths were not enough to derail me for long.
I think we have all had enough of your self-praise, Detective. Perhaps you would like to tell us who killed him now?
Madame, as I'm sure you would expect, it is not as simple as that. What many of you do not know is the discussion that was had between the Major and Monsieur Beckers earlier that day.
What has that got to do with anything? I told you I didn't kill him.
That I know to be true. What you do not know is that it was not only his ears that heard your spoken words.
I hope you are not implying I had something to do with it.
No, Madame, there was another.
Elizabeth.
Mademoiselle Elisabeth. You are all aware that the Major was hired by Monsieur de Silva to front the security during the workers' strikes. What very few of you know is that it was the Major's order that instigated the vicious attacks on those unarmed men and resulted in numerous deaths, including Mademoiselle Elisabeth's fiancé, Luc. Monsieur Beckers confronted the Major, declaring that he was to hand himself in. That is what Mademoiselle Elisabeth overheard. Now, knowing the truth, she waited until the Major was away from his study. After he stepped outside, following the confrontation with Monsieur Demire's fist, it looked to be the perfect opportunity, or so she thought. The major returned and found her looking for the proof she required to hand him over to the authorities.
If the maid bumped him off, why hasn't she been arrested?
The events that followed in the study are not those of a cold-blooded murder, but one of a young girl that had no other option but to protect her own life.
Sounds to me, detective, like you have taken a shine to this young girl and would rather protest her innocence than arrest her for murder, the crime she has committed.
Jeez, this is gonna make for a juicy story.
Mademoiselle, I ask you this. You have seen the Major's anger before, oui?
What if I have?
How do you think he would have reacted if someone was to find proof that he had committed a terrible act, and that if made public, would surely result in his incarceration? Exactement.
It is quite the story you have told, detective, but all I have heard is that Elizabeth overheard a conversation blaming the Major for her fiancé's death, and she murdered him in revenge. A servant killing a man that is as revered as he was. She will face the noose.
I am not denying that a man has lost his life, but it is not the crime of murder that you all believe. While the Major did not deserve to die in such a way, it was his actions towards Mademoiselle Elizabeth that drove her to defend herself in any way she could. Mademoiselle Elizabeth will be punished, but we will let the law decide the severity of her punishment.
She has played you like a fiddle, detective, acting the innocent victim. She will be arrested and hanged for her crime, like every other cold-blooded killer.
Hear, hear.
Give her what she deserves.
The girl has got to pay for what she's done.
Забыли личную непривязанную к Майору, ужасные преступления, которые они совершили. И что он так и иначе сделал. Я не могу допустить, чтобы на приговорах мадемуазель Элизабет негативно повлияли собравшие в этом доме. Я должен показать им, что в детстве привели к этим печальным обстоятельствам и убийствам. Он нарисован участие не только забастовки рабочих, но и последствия спряток.
Those of you that are calling for the hanging of Mademoiselle Elizabeth, have you forgotten the roles you played? Your actions have been far from innocent.
Look, detective, I see where you are going with this, but it's not going to work. So maybe the strikes were down to De Silva and Becker's. But don't try and drag me into their mistakes.
Mademoiselle Conrad, if you are so confident of your innocence, perhaps we should begin with you.
You don't need to imply it's only me that does. Ask any of my journalists, they'll say the same.
Even if in the process people are hurt? You knew the situation surrounding the strikes, and only sought to swell the anger in people and create further chaos. Mademoiselle, you so often have something to say. Now is not the time for silence.
You really are delusional. Maybe you should just keep your theories and claims to yourself. You obviously have no idea what goes on in my world. I would say stick to honest police work, but it seems that it's not in your field either. Look, it's...
Mademoiselle, I do not have time for your excuses. Do you wish to state your direct involvement, or should...
It's not... Okay, fine. Yes, the story was going nowhere. There was a deal on the table, and it was going to be done and dusted. Everything you said is true. I wanted the story, the scoop that would have blown the others out of the water. I never wanted anyone to get hurt, but I didn't think you had this side in you. I can see now why Angeline asked for you personally. You're not like other cops. It's clear it's the law and doing the right thing through and through with you.
If you say it was self-defense, I believe you.
We can't just forget what that girl has done. It's not Jackie's fault, or any of ours, that she decided to do what she did.
Monsieur Beckers, you are the last person I expected to defend. We talked only last night, and correct me if I am wrong, but you have already declared the role you played. To me, at least.
Yes, we talked. It's just not fair of you to attack Jackie like that, putting words in her mouth until she succumbs to your plan. Detective, I'm afraid you're misunderstood. That is not how... It was not my intention for things to escalate as they did. I could not have predicted that would happen. Jackie was documenting everything to do with the strikes. She wanted our story to be heard and wanted to know how I was handling the negotiations.
And they were handled by yourself?
Naturally. If I cannot handle simple negotiations, I am not fit to be in the position. I was only pushing for what my men deserved, what they needed. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, Detective. Surely you must know that. Nothing is ever simple, Detective. I'm sure you understand that better than that. You're right, Detective. I have tried so hard to deny my part, but I know only too well that my decisions led to the death of... I know I cannot excuse what I've done. I just want you all to know that I am not a hateful or malicious man. I only wanted to prove that I was the right man. I have lived in other shadows for so long. I thought I would be able to finally step into the light and be the one that everyone remembered. Monsieur da Silva offered me a deal and I turned it down. I thought I was doing right by the workers. It was only myself I was thinking about.
What more proof do you need? He said it himself. I made a generous offer to reach a resolution, and he...
It was not that simple, though. An offer was made. But Monsieur Beckers and the workers would never have been forced into that position had their working conditions been satisfactory to begin with.
This is outrageous! Do you plan on blaming everyone for doing their jobs? I suppose it makes you... Me and my decisions. Detective, you are really clutching at... Need I remind you, I am a successful business. If you think otherwise... I'm the next target, am I? You are certainly not... We can all see...
Monsieur da Silva, you seem to have forgotten our previous conversation.
I recall them. Is that what you plan to do? Accuse us all of something until we...
The events that led to the Major's murder are not as simple as you have tried to convince us.
Apparently anyone can become a detective.
Through order.
Order? There's no order in beating down who you consider suspects until they have no other option but...
Monsieur da Silva, you have stood steadfast.
Detective, you would do well not to anger my friends.
It was not my intention. I only want those responsible to be held accountable for their actions. The Major's death does not fall. Does your position on Mademoiselle Elizabeth's guilt remain the same?
Even after all your attempts, Detective, Felix was still murdered. So...
It was not choice to hide anything, madame. If in her position, I ask, what would you have done? The Major has already furiously thrown an object at you, barely missing your head, and now has hold of your arm.
I wouldn't have driven a knife into him, that I can tell you for sure. She is no fool. She intended to kill, not to defend.
Мадам Дебош будет посложнее, чем с наглецами, но методика тоже срабатывает с ней. Я должен видеть ее в том, что...
He was a passionate man. Sometimes conversations and arguments turned heated, yes.
So, even you confirm he had a history of aggression.
You have no idea. He was there for us when we needed him.
You were there for him when he needed free room and board.
That is not the case, and you know it.
His actions are unforgivable and should not be defended by anyone.
You judge him so harshly, but I return the question. What would you have done in his position? He had made mistakes. I will not deny that. In those moments when a decision had to be made,
S'il te plaît, madame. I ask that you consider everything you know of the Major carefully.
he was not always like that. The man that I called a friend would never have done what he has. I cannot allow another innocent person to be punished for his vicious and barbarous behavior.
You have seen the Major act in a similar manner as I described before, haven't you? What was the outcome then?
You have convinced me that I am wrong, in both my opinion on Elizabeth's punishment and in the friendships I keep. Is that not enough for you?
Not when a potential crime has been committed, and I fear an innocent party may have been punished for it.
He was just a boy. I told him to stop, but he was like a wild animal.
The confrontation with Mademoiselle Elizabeth was not the first time he has come close to killing another.
It was following the officer's ball. A young man, no older than 16, stopped us on the street, begging for some change. Felix pushed him away. Like a flash, Felix snapped and wouldn't let go of him. He would not stop punching him. I have never seen anything so brutal.
But he was never charged for the attack.
Felix called the captain at the station and said that the boy had tried to rob him. The boy was thrown behind bars without a second thought.
And even after witnessing such a brutal assault, you still support him. You still believe that he had not attacked Elizabeth.
The days following, he showed no signs of remorse, no apology to him or to me. I blamed it on the amount he had had to drink. But when you began talking about him finding Elizabeth in his study,
had you been open about the Major's temper, this could all have been avoided. When you tell the courts the truth, Mademoiselle Elizabeth's self-defense plea cannot be ignored.
Just when I thought I could not see a more spineless move.
excuse me.
You allowed a bully and thug to remain in your house and endanger your family.
I'm sorry, Margot, but I am struggling to understand.
I'm surprised you can hear me way up there on that high horse of yours.
How dare you speak to me in that way? Who I decide to keep in my house is my decision and no one else's.
I can see that. Murderers, thieves, and extortionists are all acceptable, it seems.
Countess, I have talked at length of the Major's death, but not the reason for my invitation in the first place. When I last gathered you all together, I spoke of a blackmail ring that was rife in the area, and then of the letter that the Major had received. Mademoiselle Angeline requested my help personally after she received such a letter threatening her family name. She felt I was the only one that could uncover the truth. And uncover the truth I have.
Get on with it, detective. Who dared try and extort my family and then have the gall to allow me to welcome them into my home?
If it was not for the honesty of a young servant, I would perhaps still be looking for the
For goodness sake, it was me.
Margot.
While it looked as though the Countess was helping the young women at the shelter, she was in fact only finding them positions of employment in wealthy homes to gather information on them and learn secrets that she would ultimately be able to use against them. Monsieur da Silva fell victim to her network of moles and was in turn blackmailed. It was quite the prosperous setup you had, knowing that they would not be prepared to lose their social standing if a secret was to find its way from where it had been hidden for so long.
That cannot be true, Margot. How could you do such a cruel thing?
That is rich, coming from you.
You are one of my oldest friends.
High and mighty Madame Van den Bosch, you think you can do what you wish when you wish it and there will be no repercussions. You are as bad as all of them.
If I do not get a straight answer out of you, I will march you to the police station myself.
I'm surprised it took the Major this long to start living with you. He must have been on the edge for some time.
How dare you speak to me like that?
A home you share with the father of your daughter for so many years, and she still remains none the wiser.
You have no right.
Maman,
Angeline, have you heard what she has admitted to? She is merely trying to make herself...
is what she says true? Felix, he was my father? That is the secret that the letter was talking about, isn't it? You told me that we had nothing to hide. Detective Poirot, were you aware of this?
Oui, mademoiselle.
Years like a lady of the night with her client list.
You will say no more. Angeline, I...
Did Felix know?
This is not an appropriate conversation.
He knew, dear girl. He knew the whole time. It is only dear Edwin that was blind to their deceit.
You will not talk of him like that. You will not talk of him at all.
If I don't, who will? You never deserved him. You don't even deserve the memory of him.
Countess, there is something that you still have not explained.
What more is there for her to say?
How long were you in love with the Viscount for?
Margot? Is that true?
We were destined to be together. And then you turned up, and I was all but forgotten about.
But you were nothing more than friends.
And you made sure of that, didn't you? From the day you arrived, it was all about what you wanted and what you had to do to get it. You didn't consider Edwin at all. He was just a purse to you.
I loved my husband, and I miss him every day.
Loved him enough to stray?
Both of you, no more!
Please, Angela, let me explain.
Maman, I do not wish to hear anything else from you.
Not even your own daughter wants to hear your lies anymore. Cassandra Van den Bosch, all alone.
How dare you!
While I feel a sense of satisfaction and pride in solving both cases, there is still a part of me that is reluctant to revel in triumph. I am content with the unmasking of Comtesse de Vos as the blackmailer, and knowing that she will pay for her crimes. But it is the justice for Mademoiselle Elizabeth that worries me. She will stand in a court of law, and I can only hope that they can see she acted in self-defense. I must trust that our legal system and justice will prevail, and a fair sentencing will be given. In protecting her own life, she took the life of another. Perhaps the guilt she must live with is a greater punishment than any sentence she can receive. Comtesse de Vos was taken from Nemozinet House in cuffs and placed under arrest. Although she initially tried to plead her innocence, Inga, along with a number of other girls that the Comtesse had found employment for, came forward and made full statements. She was charged with 5 counts of blackmail and extortion and sent to a house of corrections, where she will have a new life to become accustomed to. Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna were also reprimanded for their participation. While they may not be facing time in prison, tampering with a crime scene and obstruction of a police investigation are certainly not something that houses and new employers will look positively on. Mademoiselle Angeline finally became Madame Demire, and together they took up residence in England, where Monsieur Demire continues to support and fight for fairness and equality in London. I am happy to say that we have remained in contact, and Madame Demire has become a regular correspondent of mine, and the latest joyous news is that they are expecting a child of their own. Madame Van den Bosch showed compassion that I had not seen in her before. She stood in court and gave a truthful and genuine character reference of Elizabeth, as well as describing the major and the atrocious crimes he had committed. After Madame Van den Bosch's secret was revealed to the world, her position in the social hierarchy was no more, disappearing in a moment. While she still resides in Belgium, I believe she has had to adapt to a far more modest way of life. A humbling experience for her, I am sure. Following her actions in the courtroom, Angeline believed that her maman still had a place in her life. Although they are on different sides of La Manche, they remain in contact. Mademoiselle Conrad left Nemozinet House the same way she entered, confident in herself and audacious in her opinions. Her report of the Major's murder at the house and the surrounding blackmails became one of the most talked about stories of the year. While there were certain details of her own involvement that did not make it to print, she was really quite complimentary about the detective at the heart of the case. Monsieur de Silva tried to continue in his position as factory owner and business entrepreneur, but after his accounts and business dealings were investigated following the details of his blackmail being made public in Mademoiselle Conrad's article, his illustrious business empire began to crumble and is now facing an international corporate investigation. Monsieur Beckers stepped down from his position as union leader, accepting that he was no longer fit to represent the workforce that, in his words, he had let down on a scale of unmeasurable proportion. Although he is no longer the voice of the workers, he continues to support them from behind the scenes. Monsieur Zachariah and his brother made amends, and returning to his family home, and after sobering up, he was able to find the help that he required. I understand that he is now helping fellow soldiers with similar conditions. And Mademoiselle Elizabeth, she stood before a court, and while the proceedings were deemed controversial, the charges against her were dropped, and the reasoning of self-defense was accepted by the presiding judge. Madame Van den Bosch's testimony, along with Mademoiselle Angeline's declaration of her good character, was enough to show that it was not in Elizabeth's nature to act in such a violent way. The abundance of evidence against the Major, and his violent and cruel nature, including his appalling acts during the strikes and the war, was more than enough to prove that Mademoiselle Elizabeth had no other option in that situation but to defend herself in any way that she could. With the new arrival of Madame and Monsieur Demire's child next year, They have agreed to give Elizabeth the opportunity to return home to England and take up a position in their home as nanny. The death of Elizabeth's beloved Luke has been at the center of everything. Had those in positions to help not acted with only themselves in mind, perhaps he would still be alive today, and the Major would have paid the price for his own crimes in the eyes of the law, not at the blade of a knife. The blood of Major Felix Egan will remain on Elizabeth's hands, a stain that wherever she is and whatever she may do, she will never be able to wash clean. However, it will remain as a reminder to not only her, but all of us, of what we as human beings are capable of to protect ourselves. We all have something that may be considered shameful or sinful, and it is how we deal with it that shows our true character. Those involved in the riots, the workers' deaths, and the Major's killing believed themselves to be untouchable. Whether it was from their social standing or their confidence in themselves, they learned that everyone is accountable for their actions. There is no exemption because of the suit you wear or the money in your bank account. There is no price to a man's life. It cannot be bought or traded or discarded. No man is better than another, including Detective Hercule Pуаро.
Ну вот и финал. Всем спасибо за просмотр. Если нравится, обязательно подписывайтесь на мой канал.